Here we go. Winter Olympics, hockey, one of the sports there. This quote is apropos for a number of reasons and relates to a question that has been coming up from a lot of our Lead Deck Founders Club members. You miss 100% of the shots you don't take. You miss 100% of the shots you don't take. How does that relate to us? Most of us just need to commit to taking more shots. Just asking more people, buyers, sellers, whatever. The more we ask, the more conversations or conversation opportunities that creates. The more conversation opportunities, the more opportunities there are to ask the next question, which I'm finding that more and more of the people that we're helping, they're fixing one problem, meaning they're having more conversations, which we have to have more of if we want to write more contracts and close more transactions. There's no getting around that. We have to have more conversations. And yet, we still have to ask to have the opportunity to write the contract to close the transaction. So I want to take a minute and share some simple phrases that might help you if you're stuck and you don't know what to do next or what question to ask next. You have buyers in one hand and you have sellers in another hand, but you're not matching them up. We're not writing contracts. So what can we ask, or what phrases can we use to open the door to the contract, to take the shot? And I want this to be an open mastermind. So drop them in the chat or open your lines. I'll start, and I have others, but I use different language than some of you. And I know in looking here, we have a great deal of experience on the line. Notice I use the word experience. Okay. We have people here that have been licensed a lot longer than I have. And at this point, it's crazy to me to think that I think January 1st of 2027 will be my 20th year, which is insane. That's just being licensed. I was doing deals 3 years before I even got licensed. Number one, would you be totally opposed to? Hey, James, would you be totally opposed to looking at an offer on your property at street address? Hey, James, would you be totally opposed to getting that property on the open market using our 7-day stress-free home sale system? Hey, James, if I brought you a good deal, would you be totally opposed to making an offer on it this afternoon? Whatever. When you flip it, instead of going for the yes, you go for the no, meaning I wouldn't be totally opposed to that, right? And we're not asking for a yes. We're just asking for anything other than a hard no. Anything other than a hard, nah, not interested. At what number would you be interested? At what number would you be a seller? At what number would it make sense for you? Hey, James, at what number would this property be a good deal for you? At what number would it make sense for us to go ahead and write up an offer on this? I'll even ask this to agents I did this yesterday. I have a listing that is a fixer-upper. And also, the pipes just froze. Not this past weekend, the weekend before. I got my big sign out there, and a guy calls and is like, hey, are you the listing agent on this property on the High Street in Duncannon? I'm like, yeah, what's up? I think you got a problem. I'm like, what do you mean? What are you talking about? Well, there's like a giant icicle down the front of the house. And I was like, oh, great. So I call Danny. Hey, Danny, I think we got a problem. He's like, what are you talking about? That can't be. We got the heat on. I was like, listen, I'm not there. I'm just relaying the message. I can't get there till this afternoon. In the meantime, he figures out, that's what happened. Anyway, we still had a showing last weekend, and the feedback was that their client was somewhat interested. Yesterday, I asked her, at what number would it make sense for your client? Let's write it up and see where he's at. Let's just see what we can make happen. At what number would it be a no-brainer for you to go ahead and get this property on the market and, move south where it's warmer? I think we're supposed to get 40s here later this week. So, I mean, that'll feel like 80. What are some other phrases that you all have used or found helpful in transitioning, in getting people to the next step, to get them beyond, the indecision phase?
What happens if you don't sell?
Okay. Ooh. Yeah. Okay. What happens if you don't? Could be sell, find another deal. I mean, whatever. There's any number of ways that you could frame that.
Ellipsis.
Yeah. What else? I mean, there are other great phrases. I ran out of time. What I was hoping to have done before hopping on here is reviewing exactly what to say. Is that what it's called? Exactly what to say for real estate agents. It's a black book. There are great phrases and verbiage and terminology in there that you can all use. Tomorrow morning, I'll have it. I've just been scrambling. And even I think I was probably, I was a couple minutes late to even start this because I've kind of been in full scramble mode. But that is a great book. And there are lots of great phrases, scripts, templates that you can use in there. I found, for me personally, this phrase, pivoting from institutional or portfolio buyer offers to getting it on the open market, I have used that over and over and over again successfully. And that is a question that comes up often, like, how do you pivot from these offers to this? Because for most people, the institutional cash offers or the portfolio buyer offers, like your local buyer offers, for most people, they're not going to make sense. 3 to 5% of them. 3 to 5% of the homeowners or property owners, absentee owners, whatever, you get to raise their hand. 3 to 5% of them, one of those portfolio or institutional buyers is going to make sense for, which means 95 to 97% of them are going to be better served by going on the market. But if you're just saying, would you be totally opposed to listing your property? Even if you said that, you'll get some less yeses. But if you say, would you be totally opposed to getting would you be totally opposed to getting your property on the open market using our 7-day stress-free home sale system? ? I mean, if they've already indicated some desire or motivation to sell, you're going to get a pretty good percentage of them to answer, well, no, I wouldn't be totally opposed to that. And they might say, well, what would that look like? How does that work? That's just taking a little crack in the door and opening it wide open for you. Well, I'm so glad you asked. Let me explain exactly how that would work. And for those of you wondering, okay, well, then what? Then what? And I've been thinking a lot about this. Listing presentations, in my opinion, are nonsense and a very tired, outdated concept. What has worked incredibly well for me is listing proposals. And you say, oh, were you just using semantics? No, a presentation is about you. At least most of the listing presentations that I've ever seen are more about you. This is what we'll do for you. I mean, it's what you're going to do for them. Okay, maybe semantics, but a listing proposal is specific to them. What I mean is, I get somebody that says, well, what does that look like? Or how would that work? Or, what would the next steps be? I put together a proposal specific to their property. This is how we're going to market your property. Here's how we're going to find the ideal buyer for your property. And here's the timelines that will follow to make that happen. And while that might sound like a lot of work, if you use AI, you can, generally speaking, put together really good looking individual proposals for potential listings in 3 to 5 minutes. 3 to 5 minutes.
Josh, Gamma is probably the best tool we have ever used for that. You can get all of your prompts from ChatGPT for everything that you need for your ICPs and all the data that you need from your MLS. But I'm telling you, what Gamma does for those presentations is just incredible. And it is fast, very fast.
Love it. Love it. I haven't been using it because I haven't needed to. And I'm like, I don't want to learn a new tool right this second. I definitely will. What I have been using is Notebook LM. So my process, if I get someone who, I say, hey, Doreen, would you be totally opposed to getting this thing on the open market using our 7-day stress-free home sale system? Well, yeah, I'm not totally opposed to that. What would that look like? Perfect. I'll get a proposal together for you and over this afternoon. For me, what I do is I record a Loom video walking through exactly what we're going to do and the timelines for each of those things. I take the transcript, I pop it into Notebook LM. Previously, I've also used Manus. You can use Gamma. Use whatever. It doesn't matter. It literally doesn't matter. Other than you've taken the time to put together an organized, thoughtful plan or a proposal for their property. Not, this is my 189 point, whatever, marketing plan or listing plan or whatever. I'm not saying anything against them, but that is a generic solution. I'll give you a very specific real world example. And I got to keep this one short. So I'm going to wrap this part of the cafe up and then some updates. And then it's going to be short and sweet today. I have a listing that is going on the market coming soon, later this week and live next week. It was an expired listing. When I met with them to take the listing, okay, so I had 2 appointments with them. The first appointment, I would say I maybe was the favorite, maybe. But I do actually think that they were sort of still undecided on who their favorite was. Let me say this. I think the husband had me as the favorite. The wife was undecided. Let me say it that way. Because the husband is the one that I had been, somehow or another, he got in my bold trail. So he's been getting my market updates. He's been getting the emails that I scheduled out yesterday, my monthly home value update that has offer options, et cetera. He's been getting those. So in his eyes, I was probably, a slight favorite. The wife was undecided. So when I went out, but the second time, which is basically, the second time I met with them was to determine, like, when are we doing pictures? When are we doing Matterport? And when are we coming soon? And when are we live on the market? She tells me at the very end, here's why I wanted to go with you. Joe was already kind of, he was kind of sold. When we met with you the first time, you told us exactly who the 2 potential buyer avatars were for the property. When we asked the other people that we interviewed, they had no idea. Their answer to that question was, well, we're a big punk company and we have a lot of reach. So I told them very specifically the 2 potential buyer avatars, and I told them who they are and how we're going to get the property in front of them. So it wasn't just like, here's who I think they are, here's how we're going to get in front of them. I did zero presentation with them. There was no presentation. I didn't have. Now, I'm not saying I wasn't prepared, but there was no presentation. In fact, I don't know that I've ever actually given a listing presentation. I've had one. I've taken one with me. I don't know that I've ever actually used that. And yet, I know some of you use that and swear by it and whatever. I'm just saying, from my perspective, what is most effective is a proposal specific to their property and what you're going to do. And even if what you're detailing is the same as what your competitor is going to do, by you detailing it, demonstrating it, and communicating it, you will likely win that business because they're likely not going to do that. There's always exceptions, but you get the point. Campbell, go ahead. And I had muted you. I'm sorry. I didn't know there was some background. There was some background, and I couldn't tell if it was on yours or.
It was probably me.
Yeah.
If you would share one of those notebook LMs that you've done for somebody so we can see your Loom video and what goes in the LM, that would be helpful, I think.
Let me do this actually. So I just started using this for this specific. Hold on. Where is? Oh, they're having issues. Okay. So that actually is helpful. Here's what I'll do. Later this week, I'll actually do that. But in the meantime, I want to share one that I used Manus to create that, as I'm looking back at it now, was terrible. I mean, there were some things that I probably should have paid closer attention to. Let me phrase it that way. So, which one did I want to show? Not that one. This one. Yeah, this one. So, this was an absentee owner. Together process pre-lead deck to get him to raise his hand. I was reaching out to him about a building lot that he owned. We had a conversation. You know, there was a text exchange. He called, whatever. And I recorded this Loom video. And this was the first person, at least that I can remember. Oh, this is the wrong Loom video. Hold on. Oh, this one. This is the first person that I could remember that was like, I'm not watching that. He's like, you can tell this is like late summer because I actually have a little color on my face. He said something to the effect that I'm not watching that. I don't know you. I'm not clicking on a video from some random guy on the internet. And it actually, there's a lesson in this too. When that happens to you, there's always, relating back to yesterday, I could have viewed that as an obstacle or an opportunity. So my immediate reaction was, seriously? I made this guy a personal video with his name flashing on the screen and he won't watch it? And then I thought about it and I thought, okay, what could I do? And in something, I think he said, you know, I want to read it in black and white or something like that. He said something along those lines. So I thought, all right, let me put it in black and white. And so I used Manus, MANUS.ai. I fed it the transcript and I told it, my prompt was simply, can you take this video transcript and put together a short summary and proposal for Stephen White for his 4-acre building lot in Newport, in Perry County, PA. The thing about this that is terrible, like it just says real estate marketing proposal at the top. Like I didn't even there's so much about this that could have been better. And yet, this proposal helped me earn his business on this transaction, which I got paid handsomely, even though this was a low priced property. I got a very nice commission check because of the way I proposed to him. He then gave me a 2-unit to sell, which he had already kind of committed to work with another agent and decided, in part because of this proposal, I like you better. Sold that. He took the proceeds of those two and we bought 63 acres. He's referred me another person, and the buyer that bought the 2-unit, I have a listing that is coming soon, a different 2-unit that he owns that he wants to sell and 1031 exchange. So that one text message that started the conversation and this proposal has turned into more than 20,000 in closed GCI and another 15 to 20,000 in potential GCI. One message, opening the conversation. And it was literally the message that the text that we use over and over. Hey, Stephen, would you consider selling your property at street address? In this case, your vacant lot at street address to a private client of ours this summer or fall. That's what started it. That opened the conversation. This proposal got the conversation from this point to a contract, which then turned into numerous closed transactions. Point is, I don't think it's as important which AI you use or whatever. Like, I think what it's important is that you have an organized, thoughtful, detailed proposal specific to their property and what you're going to do to solve their problem. And for those of you thinking, well, what if I don't want to do a Loom video? Open up any of the AIs, turn on the microphone, and just talk to it. Hey, I call my chat Chad. Hey, Chad, I need to put together a 2 to 3 page proposal for, I'll use Joe and Olga for their property at 1313 Carnegie Way in Mechanicsburg, period. They previously tried to sell it last year. I would just talk to it. They tried to sell it last year, was unsuccessful. They really want to get this sold because in their case, they want to spend they already have been spending half of their year in Greece. And the half that they've been spending here is the winter. And they're like, why are we doing this? Why would we not spend the other half of the year when we're in the United States in Florida, where it's, warmer or whatever? So I would literally just have that conversation. I would detail out my thoughts. If I miss anything, I can just, when I stop talking, I can look at it and be like, you know what? I should probably add this, this, and this, and just keep talking to it, and you'll have a proposal. Like, you don't have to use a Loom. I like using Loom for a personal video message. Maybe you like Dub, maybe you like BombBomb, or maybe you're just scared out of your mind to do that. That's fine too. And also, if you can record a personal video message and you don't have to have your webcam on. I think it's better if you do, but you don't have to. You can leave it off. And, what would I have on my screen? Well, pull up their property. Just have their property on the screen. Hey, Steve, I just wanted to walk you through, how we go about things so we can get your property sold, blah, 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 whatever. That was longer than I planned on this stuff. But I have a couple of other. Does anybody, before I pivot to a couple of updates from yesterday and close a couple loops, does anybody have anything on this topic?
I went back and I found my notes from the Full Fee Agent, the Chris Voss based book.
That's where the concept of the favorite and the full, which has come up a couple of times recently here on the cafe. So if you're going out on a listing appointment, it's helpful to know, are you the favorite or are you the full? In other words, in most cases, if people are interviewing more than one person, they already have a favorite. And so they may be interviewing you just so they can feel like they checked the box off that they interviewed multiple people. Anyway, go ahead.
There's so many phrases that I took notes that we could add to that.
Okay, why don't we do this? This is perfect because I'm short on time today. Yeah. Let's continue that conversation tomorrow. And if James, if you want to bring your notes, we'll share even more because the fact of the matter is, every one of these phrases becomes a tool in our tool belt. And the more we have, the better equipped, the more confidence and competence we will have in having conversations. Because if you feel like there is literally nothing that this person can say that I can't at least find some way to pivot around, most of you would probably have more conversations. You'd you'd have less reservations about having that, right? Because consciously or subconsciously, I think sometimes we get stuck. We get stuck. So let's do that tomorrow. And also, Wendy, if I can put you on the spot, I would love for you to share what you shared with me on the phone Friday. We'll keep it clean, because Wendy calls me. I answer. She doesn't say hello. She says, "What type of bleepery is this?" And I was like, "Oh boy, I don't know where this is going to go." And so the rest of it was good, but it certainly got my attention. It was definitely a pattern interrupt when I answered the phone, and I thought that would be helpful because she was also, it was kind of a follow up to a topic Wednesday and Thursday last week on the cafe and our weekly mastermind. So if you're up for that, that'll be a good plan for tomorrow. Is James notes from, say the title and the author again?
The Full Fee Agent. So it's based off of Never Split the Difference.
Yeah.
But written by an agent that was a coach for 20 years or something. And just all these things dawned on me. I was doing it the hard way. So.
And Never Split the Difference is a book on negotiation. It's not real estate specific, but it's just, negotiating.
Josh, make that statement again. Am I the favorite, or what was the second word?
Am I the favorite or the fool? The fool.
The fool. Okay,
meaning another way you could look at it is am I the favorite or the underdog? And I don't necessarily care if I'm the underdog or the fool, but knowing is important, or having some idea is important, for one of two reasons. Number one, I can decide whether or not I'm even going to, waste my time, which, if I've got a local appointment in my neighborhood, I'm taking that regardless. I don't care if I'm the favorite or the fool. But if I've got one where it's 45 minutes away and I don't really know if I want any more business in this neighborhood, and I get the sense that they already have somebody else, which a lot of times they will tell you, "Hey, we're interviewing multiple agents. Would you like to be one that we're interviewing?" Maybe not, or I may use that as an opportunity to put together a proposal or a loom and send it instead of my personal attendance. Check this out first, and then let's figure out if it makes sense for me to come out in person.
So you're asking in this before you go and meet with them to basically find out where you're standing on the appointment.
Well, honestly, I don't. I mean, it's important to know, but a lot of my listing appointments, I'm not like it. A lot of mine come where I'm not competing. So you want to use context clues on that and understand, but I don't. I guess my sentence before you asked the follow-up question was more theoretical than reality, because I just don't really, I personally don't care. I also am probably irrationally confident in the sense that I just believe that I'll win. Like I knew that, I'll go back to the example that I just shared, that expired listing. I knew that they were interviewing other people because they told me. And also it's a local property. I also view all of that as just reps. So it was practice for me regardless. I would have gone either way. But I think it is valuable to have some sense. I just don't know that that unless they bring it up, I usually don't care. So if it's a listing that I want, I usually don't care. If it's a listing I don't want, or again, for me, I cover a pretty big geographic area, right? And I know I reference this often, but I'm in Central PA and we're not very densely populated. And I have big goals, big target numbers. So in order to hit that, I'm not going to hit that just in Enola. Okay. I'd have to get 50% market share and I'm exaggerating, but whatever. So the personal Loom videos and proposals means I can, like, I can present without presenting. In other words, I have used personal Loom videos and proposals like this to like take a lot of business where I either never met the person in person ever, or met them after I had the business. In other words, after they had already decided I was the favorite, because I had already positioned myself as the favorite through my proposal and through my personal video message, and through me demonstrating that I should be the favorite, basically. So hopefully that helps a little bit.
Like, I think is Gina Hansen, maybe. She came on our state meeting. She's not in Colorado, but she comes in with a really strong, assumptive close. She'll show up at the door with a lockbox and her sign, and just get into her presentation, and I guess it works pretty well. So
I don't know. Maybe it's my market. I've never really had to operate that way. I mean, I don't know. I'm not, I am very assumptive, meaning I'm like, if we're in a conversation, I am assuming that we are doing business, until you tell me otherwise, or until I decide based upon this conversation, I probably don't want your business, which does happen sometimes, right? Like, it's one of the joys of having the skill and the ability to fill and keep a pipeline full of opportunity, because then you don't feel like you have to chase every maybe, regardless of whether they value you and your service and what you bring to the table. So
that and just confidence, it goes so far.
Totally. And confidence, for most people, I said I have irrational confidence, but I don't if I don't feel competent, or if I'm not certain. Oh, this is beautiful. So for our Founders Club members, our Lead Deck Lab this afternoon, the first 30 to 45 minutes, I have a guest coming on who's presenting on the topic of certainty. In other words, how do you create more of that in yourself and in your business? Because the more certainty you have, the more competent, the more confidence you will have. They all sort of relate together. And so if I feel competent, meaning if I know I can get the end result for the person, I speak and communicate and have a different body language. If I don't, like right now, if I'm being honest, I feel very confident and competent that I can sell any properties up to 750 or $1 million. Okay. Luxury properties, I'll still go for it. I'll still take the shot, but I would not feel the same level of confidence and competence because I don't have experience with them. Okay. So for whatever that's worth. Yesterday, I called, I think it was on the live stream. I left a voicemail for a listing agent on a bank-owned property that I had using my 3-step blueprint. Okay, find a deal, use that deal as bait to reach out to buyers. And then from that conversation, step 3 is make offers either on that deal or on other, go and find other on-market or off-market opportunities for the people that we talk to in step 2, or the cards that we add to our hand in step 2. So there was a bank-owned property that I saw that had come back on the market. I called the listing agent yesterday because I wanted the insider intel. Okay, so I'm sharing this because it is incredibly relevant and important for 2 reasons. When you have bait, you have to be able to communicate and actually have information that isn't readily apparent or available elsewhere. In other words, like if you just reach out in step 2 and you're like, here's a bank-owned property in Hanover. Are you looking for deals? If you do enough of that, you still might get some positive result. But generally speaking, you have to have other reasons. And we have a line of questioning that you can follow with listing agents and also with for sale by owners and with expired listings and off-market sellers in general. The line of questioning would and does work in any of those scenarios. What we're trying to uncover is what is the insider information that isn't readily apparent in the listing on, in the MLS, on Redfin, Zillow, Realtor.com, whatever. And so the reason I was calling is I was curious what happened. It was off. It was under contract and it came back on market. So he and I played phone tag yesterday, but he pretty much told me in the voicemail. It went under contract. It was a first-time home buyer. They got a home inspection and a termite inspection, and there was termite damage, which they were they just panicked. They freaked out. Now the termite damage has been addressed. Okay, it's been treated and fixed, etc. But it, nonetheless, that is the reason why it came back out. So now I have the insider information so that when I reach back out to the existing Hanover cash buyers that I already have, thanks to Lead Deck, and the ones that I haven't reached out to yet, I have the details. I have the insider intel. Okay. And I'm going to do that tomorrow on the session as well. Whoops, hold on. So that was closing one of the loops from yesterday. And then I didn't necessarily open up this loop yesterday, but it's a good reminder of one of my sort of daily habits, which is sending email follow-ups every morning, literally 7 days a week. I mean, you can take off a day or two if you really want, but this is something that I do. Here it is. This is something I do literally 7 days a week. Joe was looking at properties from the MLS alerts that I have him set up. I have him in Bright set up on MLS alerts. And he was looking at a bunch of properties over the weekend. So I sent him this Sunday morning at 7:20 a.m. And when I say I do it 7, I'm not suggesting you have to. I'm just saying that, like, for me, I've created the habit that I'm going to do that because I want to do something every single day that gives me, like, I want to do something positive for my business every single day, literally 365 days a year. I'm not suggesting you should. I'm just telling you that's one of my sort of core values. The message is simple. Looks like you were back on the site recently checking out some properties. Are there any I should send you more info about? He said anything over 100 acres, which is weird because literally I have them set up on 3 search alerts and they're all, at least only should be sending parcels that are 100 acres or more. So, I said, that's what I double checked. That's what I've been setting. Let me see what off-market options I might be able to find for you. So I bring this up for two, because I want to demonstrate, okay, what do I do now? Right. So, like, this to me is an indicator. Like, he knows what he wants and he's asking me for that, which tells me if I bring him something that actually fits what he's looking for, he'll probably make an offer. I've got him set up on active MLS searches. But what I can do is also look for expired or canceled listings that are 100 acres or more in the search criteria that he had mentioned. So, oh man, I'm going way long. So I'm going to show this real quick and then show where I can also find these potentially in Lead Deck. And then I do have to wrap it. So where is, do I have him as Joseph? There we go. So I can go on my auto emails here. 100 acre resident. I'm going to go 100 acre land parcels, and I'm going to go criteria, and I'm going to choose expired and canceled. I'm going to deselect active and coming soon. And I'm going to go back. I'm going to go back like 1,000 days. 15. So now I have 15 possible properties. Wait a minute. Hold on. Let me go back here. I'm not going to send like this. Well, I'm going to shoot. So here's what I'm going to do with those. Number one, I'm going to pull that up and I'm going to personally email them to him. I'm not going to send it like I might send it through the automated, but I'm going to personally let him know. And then I'm also going to show him. So I'm not going to let this be just that I'm sending it to him. I'm going to actually demonstrate to him that I'm actively working on his behalf. So in Lead Deck, if I go to sellers and I say, no, I don't know, I'll go Perry County because he's looking for 100 plus acres in basically anywhere in 717, which is like 10 counties. And what I'm looking for is very, very specific, and there's not much of them or many of them. Okay. So in that case, I'm going countywide, and I'm going to go down to land and acreage, and I'm going to say minimum acres 100. And there are 57. Wow. So there are 57 100-acre parcels in Perry County. Side note, one of the enhancements.
You did say you're a rural county. Now we know. Good Lord.
Yeah, well, Perry County is the one just to the north of me that I always reference that there's one traffic light in the whole county. It also has like, I think 1/10 of the population of the county I live in. And the county I live in doesn't have a lot of population. Like the county I live in is like 2 to 2.25, 200 to 2.25, 200,000 to 2.25. And Perry County is like 25 to 30,000, the whole county. Anyway, a couple of things here. So I will send him the information. I will actively work on his behalf to see if we can find any hand raisers. And not just that, I will demonstrate to him and document to him what I am doing on his behalf. So I'll send him the list of expired and cancels, and I'll say, are there any on here that I should reach out and see if they would still be open to an offer from you on? And also, I'm going to work through these here. And one of the enhancements that Sean is adding is specifically for vacant land, the ability to layer on motivation. So vacant van parcels that are tax default, that have an involuntary lien, that are out of state absentee owned, that are, what was the other one? Inherited. It was 4. There might have been 6 that we were going to put in there, but regardless, that enhancement is coming soon. I share that for a couple of reasons. Number one, I'm not just going to sit and wait for the active listings to match what he's looking for. I'm going to go and find it. And also, like, he's looking for something very specific that there's not much of. And that means if I can find what he's looking for, I will be compensated very nicely for being a problem solver. Because you can't buy 100 acres around here for less than, it'll be a nice compensation that I will earn when I find him what he is actually looking for. And I've actually talked to him on the phone a couple of times. Like, he's legit. So it's not just that like he's some random guy asking, can you find me something with 100 acres? I've talked to him at least twice on the phone and had multiple email and text conversations with him as well.
So you wouldn't go back and check those 15 expires? Because that doesn't necessarily mean they weren't relisted and or sold.
I literally don't care to see. So this is a perfect example of something that I'm trying to beat out of most people. Who cares? Send him the 15 or any on here of interest, and I will see whatever. Because, I guess like if it's only 15, so I guess I could check to see if they had sold elsewhere. But who cares? I'm going to send him to him, and he says, I really like this one. Then I could say, you know what? I'm so sorry, Joe. It looks like this one actually did end up transacting. Here's why that's actually a good thing. That will actually create a sense of loss and urgency in him. Oh, that one you were interested. I'm so sorry. It was showing it as expired. It must have sold privately. So I just send it. And then if it's one that, if they say, because I've done this a number of times, at most, at least in my experience, there's like 1, 2, or 3 that they're like, oh, I might be interested in this one. Can you see what's going on with that? And so the likelihood that, I did have this happen. Actually, that Stephen White, the guy that I showed the listing proposal, after I sold his 2 properties, I did this very activity that I just shared for him because he kept losing. We kept losing out on parcels of land that he was trying to buy. And I sent him a list of expireds, and there was one on there that he was like, can you find out what's going on with this one? I'd be interested. And that one actually sold. And it might have sold on the MLS. I don't even remember at this point, but it did sell. Who cares? Who cares? And then we did end up finding him something that worked. It was like 63 acres for $300,000, way up north. So now, if, we've built in to Lead Deck, when you import expires, that you can use AI to search if they've been relisted, or, if they're actively listed or they've sold, because we don't want to be doing outreach to those if they're actively relisted or been sold. But in that scenario where I'm just pulling a list that I'm sending to a specific client to see if he'd be interested in any of them, I don't think that is necessary time invested personally. And also for 15 of them, it wouldn't really take that long, Okay. No matter how hard I try, I talk too much because I was hoping to keep this to 30 minutes or less. But tomorrow, James will bring more phrases that we can use to continue conversations and make it easier to just ask for the business, to just keep taking more shots. The more shots we take, the more chances we have of them going in. The other thing is, the more shots we take when we're unsuccessful, it creates a feedback loop that makes us, or creates the desire to get better at what we're doing. And so more shots over a long enough time, we will naturally get better, because the pain of missing those shots will cause us to want to get better at what we're doing, better at our craft. And so the more we take, the better we get, which means we get more from the ones we take moving forward. Like Steph Curry was not that great of a shooter in high school. He was pretty good. He wasn't the greatest shooter of all time. No questions asked, hand down, guaranteed. That was because he just kept taking 300 to 400 to 500 shots a day for literally decades, not years, decades. And now he will forever be considered the greatest shooter of all time. No dispute. He literally walks in the gym and can make it from, the stands. First shot. But he wasn't born that way. And he wasn't like that in high school. He wasn't like that at Davidson. He wasn't even like that his first couple of years in the NBA. It just was constant shots. Get out there and take some shots today, people. And I don't mean liquor. All right? Get your head out of gutter, people. All right. The Founders Club, we'll see you at 1. For those that aren't using Lead Deck, I don't know what you're doing, but you should come hang out at 11 for our absentee owner listing workshop. And we'll be back tomorrow, same time. James will have some phrases. Hopefully Wendy, I'll get her to share her story, and we'll keep making progress.